Hello and welcome. Season 4, Episode 16 of Dualistic Unity. I am enjoying finding out more and more about myself, whether it's through my own experience, through conversations with other iterations of myself, through experiences that I have or experiences that other iterations of me share with me. There's so many ways to find out more and more about yourself. And when you're taking that idea a little bit more lightly, it becomes a little bit more fun. The experience of finding out more becomes fulfilling in and of itself. And so I'm just very much enjoying that experience.
And I am not a positive person. I just wanted to mention that very quickly because I notice very often people come into conversations and they listen to what I'm saying and they're like, right, but aren't you just escaping all of the bad things that are happening in the world? And I'm going to say, no, actually, I'm not. I am very aware of all of the things that are happening in the world. I'm aware of all of the influences that are working against an awakening. And I am not defeated by that because it's inevitable. It's going to happen. We're going to wake up to what we are. It's one of those things that we can only dodge for so long. So just keep that in mind. I'm not a positive person. I'm a realist. And if you are feeling defeated, then I encourage you to check out the Dualistic Unity community. Go and check out our Discord. Join us on Patreon. Jump into any of our groups. Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, we have a free weekly group that you can participate in where you can see the conversations that are happening. It's not that I'm a positive person. It's that I see a change in the nature of the pond. And it's really because of the ripples that you are making and we are making and that are being made collectively and have been for a long time. It's just a matter of how many ripples before the pond changes entirely. That all said, let's get to the episode. One more announcement very quickly. Of course, the Netherlands retreat is happening on November 11th. It's coming up in 7 or 8 months. There are already 10 tickets gone. There were only 24 tickets remaining. If you want to join us for this epic event where a good portion of our community is finally going to come together and get the chance to meet, definitely pick up your ticket now. If you have any questions whatsoever, don't hesitate to reach out to either Andrew or myself or anybody on our Discord. They will fill you in or point you in the right direction because this is going to be amazing. And it's lining up the next retreat after that and the next event after that. And we are just going to keep finding ways to find you. Okay, that's it for today's announcements. Now to the episode. Today, we are joined by Anna, or Anastasia, depending how you know her on social media. Of course, we're going to give you the link to her Instagram and her TikTok account. She is also the host of the Insanity YouTube channel. And just for anybody wondering, that's not insanity, but insanity. Keep that in mind. I love Anna's content because it's all about the journey. It's about the beauty of the unknown, the freedom of just enjoying failure, quote unquote, and embracing play, embracing the fact that nothing has really changed from childhood to now, except our ability to appreciate the place that play has in our lives. So without any further ado, I'm going to introduce Anastasia and get her to tell us a little bit about herself, what led to the Insanity YouTube channel, and we'll go from there. Hi, welcome.
Hi, thank you very much. Thanks. Yeah, I'm not Anastasia or I'm Anna. And yeah, what led to Insanity or even to me creating content? I think I have always been the strange one, or I ever felt a little bit strange because I've realized that I never really felt connected to my name, to my story, to what people told me who I am. And I never understood if it was just me or if there are other people out there who are probably thinking the same, because it always felt like, what is happening here? I don't get it. And since I was a kid, so I never understood what was happening around me. So of course, in some point you get used to everything, but normal basic things felt weird, like regular life concepts already, or me asking something, like asking why are things like this and that, and people getting upset with a bare minimum already. And I thought, okay, maybe something's wrong with me then. So I started to adapt when I was a child already. I started to ask less, to be less of myself, however this is possible, but to behave more like other people did. And yeah, when I grew up and I finally became an adult and I had the chance to do whatever the fuck I wanted, I've realized, okay, now I can just ask questions and be silly and do whatever I want and what I wanted to do as a child already, and nobody can punish me for that. So I can just do the things as long as I don't get in jail or something. So nothing probably too hardcore, but yeah, I can just do what I want to. And it hit me hard last year, I guess, when I was on holidays. And I was there with a friend, and we were sitting in a bar in a restaurant eating something. And at some point, both of us, we said like, wow, that's so boring. Why are we doing that? Why are we always in these bars? That's so horrible. When we were kids already, we didn't like it. So it was always that parents said, okay, be quiet, like sit there now, sit here now and be quiet, and here's something to paint for you and go away. Why are we repeating this shit? That's so boring. Let's not do that anymore. And then we just disappeared somewhere in the woods, and we were playing and at the beach the whole time. And thought, wow, that's amazing. Finally old enough to do all that. And the content creation started last year. So I think it was about this time that I realized, okay, I'm still a child. I still want to play. I still want to be this, what I have always been. And it just feels good. And I think I want to encourage people to express themselves more. It's impossible not to be yourself. Okay, you're always yourself, but you're not always expressing what you feel or what you really want to do in life. And I know I'm the strange one. I thought, okay, so I'm the insane one for people, and maybe it's insane to ask questions until the core. But I'm sure I'm not alone, and maybe it's insane, but maybe it's the opposite. So I thought, let's find out and let's create a safe space to do that.
I absolutely love it. The questioning will always be significantly more important than the answers that we eventually settle upon. So I love that you share that mentality with us, because if there's anything that's sort of the core of dualistic unity, it's that continued process of questioning, that unrelenting unwillingness to settle upon an answer, what that is. And so especially, the idea of ourself and how we perceive ourselves. And so I'm curious, because you've said, I know you've said in the past that we suffer not so much from being different or feeling like we're different, but because we try and be just like everyone else, we try and fit into a certain narrative that is just an overarching theme for our society. And so as you kind of explained, we do all go through a sort of process of being ourselves. And as you said, which you very clearly articulated, and I appreciate that, you're always being yourself, but there's varying degrees of how much you're tied to what you think you should be, as opposed to just what you are, beyond that idea of what you think you should be. And so as children, that's very clear to us. And eventually, the way our society is sort of structured right now, that sort of that mentality is like beaten out of us in a sense. Like everyone around us isn't just playing; they're getting serious about building that idea of themselves, and so we get pulled into that mentality. And I think we have opportunity as we get a little bit older and are on our own and become 18, be it 18, 20, 25, 30. There's this sort of period where we can let go of that and recognize, oh, maybe that wasn't so much the case. So you alluded to being in the restaurant, recognizing like, everything's kind of boring. We're doing the same sort of shit over and over and over again. Was that a moment that it hit you really hard? Or I'm curious a little bit about maybe some things leading up to that, where you recognize that, maybe I don't have to be this thing that society wants me to be. Maybe I can just be the child that I've always been, because adults are really just grown-up children. It's just the narrative and the seriousness with which we take our idea of ourselves that's all that shifts. So I'm curious about you recognizing that more clearly, if there was another situation outside of that bar that it hit you hard, that, oh, maybe I don't have to be this thing that society expects me to be. Like all these people around me they don't seem to be having very much fun. Like I don't.
Yeah, it happens quite often, and it still happens. I think basic situations sometimes. It can be sitting in a bar. It can also be, I went to a couple of dates, for example, and I was so bored all the time. So I can remember myself sitting there and people telling me something about their jobs and all the serious stuff. And I was just sitting there imagining the people having different hairstyles, being really stupid in my head. I didn't even listen. I've realized that I really don't want to do that. I want to have this kind of talks, and I don't care what these people are doing from 9 to 5 and stuff like that. And I thought, oh, I'm so bored, and it's so sad, or I feel so sorry, because obviously the person is very nice, but I really don't care. And it happened in different situations like that you always see in movies, for example, or from your parents or from people that are just my age who do that kind of stuff. And I thought, okay, maybe I have to do that kind of stuff. And I found myself in the situation so bored. And I thought, okay, nobody has something from that. So nobody benefits from that, me doing this stuff. So this person I don't understand him. So for him, it's not cool, right, to waste his time with me. And for me, it's super boring. Same things with restaurants, or just going to events that I didn't like, or jobs that I didn't like, probably also. So I needed to do something, or I was working in marketing, and I still do for a long time. And there were different agencies, for example, where good agencies, like with a proper nice name, and I just didn't feel it. So good clients and everything. I thought, oh, okay, I know people will do that for their portfolio now, but it's just, no. And why would I suffer? Why would I do that to myself? And every time I felt like I'm in the wrong place, I was forced by an energy or something to just get out of there. And I just have not too much tolerance there. So probably people are more patient than I am, but I feel like I'm always very driven. And when I realize that something's off and that I don't feel well, that I need to get out of this, like really, really quickly.
That's a great point. I don't know necessarily if it's that you have less patience or that you are more sensitive to something that we all feel, but we often kind of explain or justify away because we're so busy getting what we want, right? So I want people to like me, so I'm just going to go through this feeling of anxiety and boredom for the sake of being liked, where, once you develop a sensitivity, the fact that you're losing yourself, then all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, if I don't speak up, this is just going to keep sucking for both of us.
Yes.
Right. Even though it looks pleasant, it's really not. And we were having this conversation earlier on Patreon, because it's this weird thing that happens where you start walking on eggshells around people for the sake of not offending or upsetting them. But on the other hand, they're naturally prone to getting upset. That's why they have so many eggshells around. So no matter what you do, you're going to upset them because that's in their nature. But you're not helping them by doing so. In fact, if you were to just be yourself and let them know, I'm not the person you need me to be to cater to all of that insecurity and all of those triggers, I'm just not that person. Well, then they can exit. They can leave however they'd like oil and water, and just separate. And then all of a sudden, somebody who does resonate with your level of authenticity can find you. But they couldn't before because they weren't in that circle of friends that resonated with all of that eggshell tiptoeing, right? So it's worthwhile. And I wanted to ask this because you are obviously a very enthusiastic person. You can see that you really like to laugh, you really like to smile, and I resonate with that because I'm very much the same way. And what I've noticed is over the years, my willingness to not take myself so seriously has made it easier for me to navigate through those conversations where I am talking to somebody who is very fragile, and I will make a joke that isn't considered to be overly sensitive to their triggers. They may get a little offended, but the fact that I'm not trying to be offensive, that my intention is just to make them comfortable or anything like that, tends to diffuse the blow up that I used to get when I was trying to be honest, as opposed to just letting the chips fall where they may. Do you find that a lot of your interactions are almost buoyed by your awesome attitude?
Probably, yes. I mean, I certainly don't take myself seriously at all. Never. And I just think many things I don't do them on purpose. So sometimes I'm just funny without that I want to be it, because just stupid things are just happening to me. So I don't have people to say about me. It just kind of happens. And even if I would try to be a serious person, it just wouldn't be like that. Something really extremely stupid would happen. I don't know, something would fall down on me right now if I would try too hard to be serious. And I think it's also makes people comfortable, probably, because then they also have the feeling to be able to open up a little bit, because everyone is insecure, I guess. So people are always thinking, does the person in front of me, does the person like me? Am I behaving okay? And if I'm already stupid for both of us, let's say, then you will naturally feel comfortable, because you will probably subconsciously feel, okay, I cannot fuck it up as much as she already did. So
That's awesome. That's actually exactly how I come across. I've said it to Andrew before. Like, I come across as crazy, but the most harmless type of crazy. So people just tend to relax.
Yeah, no, taking the embarrassment for the both of you. But again, embarrassment even is something that's sort of a choice. Like, it's only embarrassing if you're embarrassed, right? And so there's that opportunity to not let it weigh you down so much. And I think the seriousness with which we take ourselves is relative to how much we suffer at the end of the day. Like, our suffering is primarily, at least the psychological suffering, exists based on how we perceive ourselves, and being super caught up in the idea of ourselves. And so, for me, especially the last couple of months, when I do get, in a rut or in a lull or something, I very quickly realize, like, oh, I'm just thinking about myself a bunch. I'm just very much caught up in the idea of Andrew. And so for you, Anna, I know, and you started things off with, which I love, that you're not Anna, and you've recognized that when you do get caught up a little bit in Anna's story, especially, in our society, it's very difficult to never get caught up a little bit in those stories, in that perception of ourselves. What are some of your go-tos to let go of that, or to kind of get through it? Is it a questioning? Is it a recognition that, you're not what you think you are? Is it some reminders that you keep in mind? I'm curious what your go-tos are when things do maybe start to feel a little bit heavier.
yeah, I think to dissolve the idea of I, because when I when I get lost too much in what I perceive with my senses, so what I see, what I can hear, then of course I start taking my experience seriously, because this is just what you see, right? So you perceive it, of course you think it's reality. It's like when you're watching a movie for too long, you start to identify with that. And I think what helps me out is remembering that it's not real, and this is not like a crazy story I'm telling myself. This is not reality, so I invent an own one. It's not that. It's that since ever I have this feeling already. When I was a kid already, I had the feeling that I want to just reach out, like reach my hand out and touch something behind this, whatever this is. So I could never really say what this feeling is, but it's as if this is kind of yes, people call it a simulation, but this was a feeling since ever. I didn't read or hear about that. And now that I started connecting to other people, and since I have TikTok, for example, and I also see your content, I see, okay, maybe I have never been that strange. Maybe there is something about it. There is something. And there is something that connects us all. And I know for sure that I can tap into this energy, that I can be connected to everyone. It's empathy. Let's say it can also be just empathy, that you can feel another person's emotion, that you can feel how if someone is okay or not. And I don't even have to see you for that. So we are all connected. And when when I'm caught up in this idea of myself, then I just need to remember that I'm not. I mean, at the end of the day, we are alone, because it's just one being here. It's just one universe. It's just one thing. But we, as as expressions of it, we are all together in here, and we are experiencing it in different ways, but we are connected all the time. And I can be connected every time that I want to.
Wow. That's a fantastic answer. Tends to be what I rely on myself. I have to ask, because I'm a parent. I'm aware of how many influences there are out there in terms of getting us to tune into the TV and identify and judge and compete and compare and all that stuff. I love the fact that you've managed to maintain just that feeling. This isn't quite what it seems like it is. Like, there seems to be more to this, despite everybody going, no, we have all the answers, stop looking. You know,
Yeah.
there's nothing left for you to find, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Just give up. I love that. But I have to ask that now that you've gotten older, are you finding it easier to get into this conversation with people in your 20s or in your adult life than it was in your teenage life? And specifically, I'm asking on behalf of my daughter, who is 15. My daughter is 15, and she knows a lot of this. She's been having this conversation with me for a long time. But as of right now, she's so inundated with the judgment of her friends, with trying to fit in, with trying to understand what society expects from her, what's to come as an adult, where she's going, what everything means, that she really doesn't have the wherewithal, more often than not, to even ask the question of what the fuck is this, like, at all. And so I guess I'm asking, do you think in the last, you know, say 5 to 10 years of your life, that this conversation has become easier, not just to have with others, but to explore in yourself now that those influences are starting to dissipate a bit?
Yes, definitely. It was first easy for me as a kid because I was alone very much in general. So my parents were busy, I was on my own, and I was reading a lot. So I was in my head anyway, and I could discuss it with my father. So I think maybe your role is very important for your daughter then, because for me it was. So for me it was cool to have a dad who I could talk about that. And I could not do it with friends and with people who were my age, or I just didn't feel that I could. Probably it was possible. I don't know, but somehow it just didn't work like that, and people were just um, dealing with other topics, so there was no space for that somehow. And yeah, it becomes easier now, and I'm not afraid of being judged anymore. So even if there was a time as a teenager, for example, where I didn't really feel comfortable with starting these conversations, I mean, I still did somehow. I was always a little bit so it was for example, we had religion as a subject at school, and I didn't want to have it. So I in some point I started to be a bit rebellious, I think, and I said, I don't you cannot force me to do that, because I have never I didn't go to church. My parents didn't raise me like that, so I don't want to learn that. So there was a philosophy subject instead, and they put me there. So I was a little bit like that, but not as I am today. So I didn't speak freely about everything. And now, since I discovered you, since I discovered some more people who are brave enough to talk about it, I feel empowered as well. So it just gets better.
Helping ourselves help ourselves, right? That's
Yeah.
that's awesome. And it does get easier, I think, the more you recognize that you're not alone in this, as much
Yeah.
as you are, which maybe we can dig into that one a little bit. But
Yeah.
you're not. And when you come across people having, the conversation, it's like, holy shit, someone's having this conversation. Like, that was me about a year and a half ago, when I first kind of recognized, like, oh, maybe I'm not, if my past isn't really anything I've experienced, it's just a collection of memories. And, the whole story of Andrew is rooted in the past. Like, maybe that isn't all that I am. Maybe that's not the extent of me. And then it hit me like it was just a recognition that it wasn't a belief. It wasn't this thing I was holding on to. It was something that was like deeply felt inside of me. And so I felt like I could speak to it with a sense of confidence and conviction with it. And then I was for, a few weeks after that. It was all I could talk about. Like, you're not what you think
Yeah.
you are. You're not what you think you are.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and I wasn't coming across anyone who was necessarily saying the same sort of thing. Even people in the spiritual side of TikTok and whatnot weren't. It was like it was close, but not quite it. There was very much still a clinging to, I am what I think I am, and I am this spiritual teacher or whatever. And then I came across some of Ray's stuff, and he was the first one I came across who I was like, oh my God, he's saying the same types of stuff. Like, it's not this, need to be seen in a certain way. It's a relinquishing of the need to be
Yeah.
seen in any specific way. And so for you, like, because I know for me, before I sort of had that stark recognition, and even after that, I was still kind of caught up in some sort of spiritual belief systems. Like, there's not a lot of belief on the spiritual side of things. How have you navigated that? Because a lot of it sounds really good and sounds very close to, the letting go of the need for anything outside of yourself, but have you I don't know, I guess just how have you navigated that and sort of recognized where there may be some pitfalls to even the spiritual side of the belief systems, and almost like how quickly that can become a sort of religion for people as well.
Yeah, I think just through realizing if it makes me feel better or worse about myself and the experience, if I get a light feeling from what I hear and what I experience or not. And I usually don't get a light feeling from people who tell me what to do. So that's another issue, like a natural born issue with authorities somehow. I don't like that. So whenever people tell me to do something or that this is the only way to deal with things, then I already don't like it. But whenever I have the freedom within a concept to pick something for myself, then I feel that there is a truth hidden for me in it. But I think there are a lot of spiritual concepts that are quite nice, and also people, creators that I like, and who are not very dogmatic. So I think there are many things that are nice, but people like to take them as religions almost, and to say that this is the only way. And I believe there are as many truths as there are people out there. So you can just choose different fragments of it and apply it on your journey. But there are just some things that I just cannot be friends with. It's just like card readings or this whole astro thing. Not because I don't believe that it cannot work. I think it kind of can work, because your subconscious mind will lead you in any direction that you believe to be true. But I just wouldn't buy it completely, because I think it weights you down, and it's also you trying to control something. And I believe this is one of the most difficult things, because it leads to suffering anyway. So it's our clinging to outcomes of situations. So we want things to develop in certain ways, and normally if we want something desperately, it roots in trauma, because otherwise we wouldn't care. So these things feed our traumas. And I believe if you want to open up, so if you want this spiritual lifestyle, but like for real, if you want to come closer to yourself, then you probably shouldn't feed your trauma, but you should probably listen to your heart and listen to what you actually want.
I love the way that you put that regarding it feeling light as opposed to feeling heavy, because there's that sensitivity. Again, we're talking about, like, often we get into the conceptual, metaphysical, all that stuff, and what we get our questions from people going, right, but how? But how? What's the logic behind that? Where's the structure and all of that? And it's like, just feel it out. Just so you have enough space to actually feel what's happening. And it does feel lighter. That just made me think about the word light. Like, not only does it feel light, but often when we're talking about the difference in our experience, we have the light versus the darkness, right? So whether you're trying to feel more light or you're trying to feel more light, what you're doing is you're trying to feel less you, because the weight is all of that idea of yourself. The weight is the restriction. The weight is the rules. The weight is the barriers, the guide rails that everybody's like, you got to stay here. And it is a weight, because now it's something you have to carry. It's something you have to think about. It's like the story of the two monks that came down from the monastery, and they're walking through their town, and it was against the rules for them to talk to women. And the road was washed out, and there was water going across, and this woman's got all of her stuff, and she obviously can't cross the stream. So one of the monks, he picks her up, carries her across, puts her down, says goodbye, and keeps walking. Well, the other monk's quiet for like 10 minutes. He's like, brother, you know that we're not allowed to interact with women. And he responds, it's like, I put her down 10 minutes ago. You're still carrying her.
Nice. Yeah.
Right. And that's it. It's the stuff we carry. Like Andrew and I have often made the point about God or Allah or anything else. It's like, God does have a creator. You, every time you think about it, every time you create the image, you have just created God as a way to escape responsibility. And that responsibility is, oddly enough, super light compared to the weight of God.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. At the end of the day, everything's a story, everything's a concept, and you have to decide which concept feels best for you. And I think we always decide for something. So even if people feel heavy all the time, it is a decision, probably a subconscious decision, but who else should decide that for you? So when people get offended because, for example, I say, yeah, you have a choice, or just do what you like, and people already get offended, then it's because it triggers something. But it's your decision. I mean, probably not a conscious one that you are triggered, but how to deal with that, and if you want to be driven by that, or if you want to change it. It's all your life, and I find that beautiful because you can change everything all the time. You have all the power.
Absolutely. I just want to dwell a little bit more on this symbolism in regards to the light and its opposite, whatever it might be, because that's it. Like, we respond, and we respond in a way that makes sense to us based on our perception and what we've been taught. But often, if we're afraid, we pull back. We actually try to put up our walls. We become entrenched. We dig in. We go farther down instead of lightening up, as it were. Like, we keep thinking, like, I got to hold on to something to protect myself instead of taking flight. And there's very few things that are as safe as a bird in flight. Right? It's like, catch me, try. Right? But we don't think about it that way, because we respond automatically based on our perception of ourselves, and everybody else is very much just coward and fear, trying to swat away everything that might threaten them, when in fact all they're doing is reinforcing their prison. I'm really enjoying the symbolism here.
Yeah, and I also think that this self-protection, it's the easy way. This is what I'm always telling myself when I realize that I do that. So something triggers me, and I shut down, or I stop talking to somebody for some minutes. It doesn't take much longer, but sometimes, like, I'm offended or something, and I realize that this is the easy way for me. So I'm not true to myself when I'm like that, because my essence is light. And whenever I shut down and whenever I start protecting myself, I'm protecting this light, which is the nature of the thing. And it's easy because this is the learned mechanism. But
it's interesting, when we try to protect the light, we're basically shuttering it.
Yes, ourselves. And I decided that I don't want to do that. A couple of weeks ago, I said something to myself again that I also said to myself a couple of years ago, and I remembered it. It's, I want the truth no matter what. And it's difficult because the truth is different for every one of us. But I want my truth. So I said I choose myself, and I try to choose myself all the time, even if it's painful in the beginning, but it's only painful because of my self-concept. It's only painful because of the mind, right? So I just keep choosing myself, even if the first second is probably a bit uncomfortable.
Well said. And I really like, along with Ray, sort of the whole symbolism of shuttering the light and sort of protecting the light as if there's something to protect. And I think that's a lot of times what people will get caught up in. Like, they think there's something that could possibly be protected, and that's part of the illusion, almost like avoiding. You said, self-protection is the easy way, like the avoidance of interacting with someone who triggers you, makes you uncomfortable, is the easy way, because there's the ability to avoid the inevitable growth that would come from interacting with another iteration of yourself, essentially, and the opportunity to learn from that interaction. And there's almost like an unwillingness to face ourselves in a way, and like the going back to the light, like the protection of the light stems from the illusion that we could ever lose it, that it's something that could be gained and lost, kind of like our value in that way, the illusion that our value goes up or down based on other people's perceptions, based on what we own and whatnot. But when you realize that there's the you that you've always thought that you were isn't the reality of you, there's no longer a way for that value to fluctuate, because you're not so tied to that story, to that illusion. And so the value doesn't fluctuate, and then it just is what you are. Like, you are that light. It's like being on the ball. It's like, whether or not the ball exists, you're always on the ball. And then eventually you recognize there's maybe not so much of a ball to be on, because the ball that you're on is also you. And so there's no duality in that either, aside from your perception.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think this is it. So you probably don't even grow. You just have to unlearn so much, because all this protection comes from people who tell you who you are. And then you start protecting yourself based on this concept. But the light that you have always been, it never left. So it's just about unlearning what people told you. I think it's basically it. This is the growth, the whole growth process. It's not really growth. It's just you have to bring the trash out the whole time. This is how I feel about life.
It's so true. And it's funny because we're talking about the light, but what we're really talking about is potential, or rather our intelligence without us in the way. And when you look at us all as one entity, as one being, and you start looking at the procession of evolution, what you find is that what we start at as tiny babies is the result of all of the intelligence of the universe through millions of years to get here. And so we are that intelligence to start, but we lack the experience. And instead of learning from our experience, we learn from the concepts that everybody else has formed through the experience of people who came before them. This is why I love the quote that culture is just living up to the expectations of dead people.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, really, really meaningful, the whole thing that we are doing.
That's hilarious. I've never heard that one before, but it makes sense, and it just goes to show how uncomfortable we are, like how little faith we have in ourselves. Like we're always relying upon structures. We're always relying upon rules, be it, morality or laws or anything, looking always outside of ourselves for, what's best. How should I act in this situation? We ask like 10 people close to us. We write down all these lists. We mull over the situation for so long, and it's all like depleting the ability to just listen to ourselves and kind of know what is best. And it's not even like, it's interesting because it's not even necessarily that the gut knows what the perfect answer is, but it's the willingness to find out and have the faith in yourself to, after you make the decision, take that next step and the next step and the next step, because the decision is just a split second thing. It's like, should I go this way or that way? I'm going to go that way. And then it's the ability to have faith in yourself to handle whatever comes afterwards. So like the individual decisions almost hold less weight the more faith you have in yourself. But when you don't have very much faith in yourself, when you're always relying upon the external to, I don't know, dictate everything that you do, like the every decision is going to have a ton of weight, because not only does it mean something about you, but you're not sure you'll be able to handle whatever comes. And so as that faith comes back to yourself, that reliance upon the external isn't so heavy or isn't so important anymore. Like the decisions are just another step along the infinite path of being reality. And it's just about finding out. So the decision, it's like, I don't know, let's make one and have a new experience through that and find out more about yourself and have an opportunity to build more faith in yourself.
Yeah, and just see what happens. I feel like people are often afraid of that. At least in my case, it was like this because, all the adults in my life were always convinced that they know better, and no matter what I do, it's always wrong. Or at least this is what I felt like. Okay, no matter if I choose this or that, it's okay. It's always wrong, even in school. Like even your teachers, no matter what you do, it's always wrong. The only right thing is the thing that they teach you, right? And I I don't know. I think it's really difficult to say, because when I look at these people now from my perspective today, when I'm also old, so I think, wow, they are so unhappy with their lives, and they are not where I want to be. So why should I take advice from them? So when I was younger, I didn't see that. So I thought these people figured out, so they know. And now that I'm the age they were before, probably, I think, oh, no, that's terrible. They were unhappy, they were unconscious, and they still probably are. This is not where I want to be. How could I even believe that these people know better? And I think this is the point. This was like this hit me hard as well. That I've realized that they know nothing. People know nothing. Nobody knows anything, and that's okay. That's really okay that nobody knows anything. Just you shouldn't buy that they do.
Absolutely. Well said. No, that's exactly the point, right? Like the expression age brings wisdom. I'm pretty sure it was said by an old person.
Yeah.
Almost guaranteed. And it really is just about recognizing that there is a possibility. And this is something that I said to Andrew as being kind of the cornerstone to my awakening, there is a possibility that everyone is full of shit. That every single person that you run into is actually going to feed you a line that comes from nowhere but their desire to feel better. And they will completely believe that simply because of the benefit that it offers, not because it's truth, not because it has anything to do with existence or what is or anything else. They will just believe it because it's better than the uncertainty, because they have no faith in who they are. They have no faith in what they can do because they keep trying to rely on an idea of themselves, which is always going to be limited. Always. And so you have to go into the world going, okay, maybe I have to figure this out for myself. Maybe if anybody's going to crack the mystery of what existence is and God and all that other stuff, maybe it's on me. Maybe it's because nobody wants to take it that way that we're not moving anywhere.
Yeah, and people will tell you cannot do it, and that's so interesting. You will publish things like that. You will put them online, and there will always be people telling you you are not the first one to say that, you are not the last one to say that. There were philosophers before you who said that. I'm like, yeah, good. Who cares how many there are? Yeah, this is like, I hope there are many people, because maybe this will finally move something. And there, I don't see the criticism, but it's like people try to tell you 24/7 what you cannot do. And I'm still triggered by that, or I'm just confused.
I hear you. I find the contradiction to be beautiful in that they will say things like, oh, yeah, you're saying we're all one consciousness, that we all share the same mind. You know, you're not the first person to say that. It's like, yeah, it's kind of the point, no?
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't get it. It's like trying to offend someone, but I don't see the point of it. And it doesn't offend me also. I just understand the offensive energy. I understand that this is the intention, but I just don't get it. Another concept that's just a mystery. I probably will ever stay one.
Yeah, they're trying to validate their own perception of themselves. They couldn't possibly fathom questioning it or doing the thing that you're doing, and so they have to put you in a box in order to feel better about themselves for not doing it. I'm not willing to do it, but I don't feel great about that because kind of deep down, I want to express myself authentically, and you're expressing yourself authentically, but I can't see myself as doing that. So I have to say that there's something wrong with you in order to feel better, because I don't feel good inside for not doing the thing that I want to do. But to Ray's point, when people will say something like, oh, you're not the first one to say it. Oh, we're all one, unity. And it's like, have you looked at what you're saying right now? Because you're saying we're all one. It's not even we. There isn't we in unity. We implies division to a degree. And so if someone's saying that, like, shit, I said it back. That other person you're saying, that was also me and you. That was us doing it, because unity. It's all been me. It's always been me forever.
Do you have this feeling sometimes that when people are talking, you just really feel into that? So as if you were this beings, like you are yourself. It's so weird. You experience that?
All the time. All the time. Absolutely. It's a practice, right? Being able to question who you think you are to the point where you can slip into somebody else's experience, or at least into their shoes to any degree whatsoever. I mean, that's where empathy comes from, but it's important to balance that. It's kind of like what you were saying earlier, like, be considerate to some degree, but on the other hand, you don't want to stop being yourself. Right? To some degree, you need to recognize that there's just a mentality that you may have been in at one point in your life where the best thing for you was for someone to piss you off.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that recognition helps not to weigh you down so much as you can start to see yourself in other people, because there is no division. There's only the perception of it, the illusion of it, of all of those things. But as you let go of that, and as you recognize yourself in others, but also recognize that you are very much having an experience as well, because we can get caught up in others and take empathy to that extreme of like feeling what someone else is going through. But then we can start to get lost in thinking that it means something about us. Like we start to feel how other people are feeling, and then think either that makes me better because now I'm an empath and now I can feel people, and it's like there's a whole fucking side of identity there. Or we get confused into thinking that, like, wait, is this other person feeling this, or is this me feeling this? And then, oh, if this is me feeling this, why am I feeling this? I thought I got over these sorts of things, and I thought I got over these sorts of things. And then there's that identity again, that idea of yourself. And so it's always coming in different ways, shapes, and forms. But as that begins to drop, you start to see yourself as everyone, as everything, as the potential to be anything, pull from any end of the spectrum. It's not just, love and light all the time, joy all the time. It's the full spectrum, all of it. And so through that, there's even more sort of faith in yourself built with a willingness to step into situations and be like, oh, I can handle this. And when you're interacting with someone who may be going through the shit more so than you're used to going through, like you can handle that as well. But a lot of times when we start to let our guard down, it can be built back up very quickly by, getting back into the mentality of what it means about you. Like starting to recognize those sorts of things, people very quickly get caught up in thinking, oh, this means more about me. Being able to feel these things.
Yeah, I had an issue with that because for a long time I couldn't really separate between my feelings and the feelings of other people. So I sometimes thought I have an issue with something, or I don't feel well because of something, and I couldn't figure out why, because it didn't affect me. So I needed to learn to separate that kind of stuff a little bit, and to also not really build up a self-image. So not to think, oh yeah, I'm an empath or something. What you just said, because that's yeah, it's also a bit weird. So yeah, I think it is difficult when you feel things, and I used to feel them, or I still do, even physically. So there was a time when I thought I'm probably making this stuff up, but I couldn't make it up when it was up to physical reactions. I thought, no way, I'm inventing that right now. And yeah, I needed to just learn to separate it, and it's still not easy because you still apply it on yourself. So whenever people feel uncomfortable about something, I tend to think, did I do something wrong? Like, why should it even be about me? So this person probably doesn't even realize I'm in the same room, or has to deal with completely different topics, but we are so wrapped up in our minds. We're just thinking about ourselves all the time. A friend of mine used to say, you know what, you can go naked somewhere, nobody will even realize, because people just think about themselves all the time. So
I was just thinking the other day that I miss the days where people used to do innocent stuff like go streaking. Like, that just doesn't happen anymore, right? Because we're all too uptight. Like, we're just going to charge that person with a crime and put them in jail just because they were, in their birthday suit running down the street, just being a nut, right? That kind of thing. But it's interesting that you bring this up, because we just did a whole community topics episode on emotions and the experience of unity and all of that. And one thing I found very useful over the years, as the idea of raise kind of disappeared, and I've had more of those experiences of just big, overwhelming emotions, to the point where I'll be like, where the fuck is that coming from? Because I know it's not me, right? And so now I've started to recognize that it's a lot like the experience of hunger. Just because I'm hungry doesn't mean I have to eat, right? Just because I'm feeling this emotion doesn't mean I need to respond to it. Doesn't mean it has anything to do with what I have to do right now. Possibly it's just informing the thought process that I'm a part of. Possibly it's informing what I'm going to do 10 minutes from now as it builds into something else. And so I think that that's really helped over the years, is recognizing that the emotional spectrum, and I've compared it like this before, is kind of like a fart in the wind. Like, you'll catch it. That doesn't mean it's yours, right? So just let it go, and the process will move on, and you'll gain some context as a result, and you'll appreciate the fresh air afterwards.
yeah, it's true. I mean, I always think that feelings mean something. So for me, it's always like a message. But I think it's when it's about your feelings. So when you have a reaction to a situation, then you have to probably find out why, or you don't have to, but if it's uncomfortable, you have the chance to deal with that, because if you have physical pain, you would also try to figure out what it is. So probably a good idea. But if it's not your emotion, then you probably shouldn't hold on it.
Yeah, no, that's very much in line with where we got in that episode about emotions, that they're always pointing to something. They're like a compass almost. And we're so focused on the compass, on the emotion, like even in the acceptance of the emotion kind of bypasses our or allows us to sort of avoid what it's pointing to, because we're always so focused on the emotion, either resisting it or even accepting it, that we're not willing to look at, oh, maybe this is pointing me somewhere. Maybe this is pointing me to another sort of situation that we don't even realize, because we're so caught up in the feeling of it and what it means about me. So as that sense of or idea of ourself begins to be taken less seriously, we can face things with a little bit more balance, and then move through things and just learn more about it, as opposed to always being in sort of fight or flight, like, oh, I'm feeling this, it's so overwhelming, it's so intense, I need to get rid of it, or I just have to, like, I want to get out of this situation, as opposed to like looking around being like, okay, I don't have to have an opinion of this. I don't have to settle upon some false certainty about what this means about me, about what it means about the situation, and kind of remain curious in that. And I think it points to our own emotions, or, as you get deeper into a state of empathy, being able to feel maybe what someone else is going through, resisting the urge to settle upon an assumption about what it means about you or the situation. It's very powerful practice, and it can allow you to not stay in a state of clarity, but at least experience enough clarity that it allows you to learn something from it, as opposed to being caught up in your resistance of it, or settling upon an opinion of what it means cuts you off from the possibility of it maybe meaning something else.
Yeah, when you just stay the being that is observing everything. So I think, yeah, I used to go through the emotions. So especially the ones that I find uncomfortable, I like to go deep into them, because I think it's important. They wouldn't be there if there was no relevance. So I do that, but I remind myself that I'm not it. So I stay the observer. I stay the one who is experiencing them without becoming the experience. But I think experiencing them is kind of necessary, or at least this is what I believe, because this is a world of duality, and it cannot just be about the pleasant part. And I think it's both necessary. And I was just asking myself today, one thing, if it's sometimes easier for us even to go into the bad emotions, like, are we more comfortable with uncomfortable emotions? Because I thought somehow when it gets too intensely good, we used to step back because we cannot believe that it can be so good. So as if we were more used to shit somehow.
Waiting for the next shoe to drop. That was something I went through for years, and it was just a result of having had so many experience where there were so many shoes that were just dropping, right, and hitting me in the face consistently. And I didn't recognize that those shoes were making contact with my face because of my opinion of the shoe. I didn't get that. Like, I kept thinking, like, having an opinion is what makes me me. It's like, actually, it's what causes the resistance to what would otherwise be happening, right? If you didn't have so much of an opinion, it wouldn't be reinforcing the idea of yourself, because that's the bitch about an opinion. It's me having it.
Yeah.
So immediately I'm divided from the world. Immediately the emotion I'm having doesn't have the same lesson, because now I'm not focused on the emotion. I'm focused on my opinion of the emotion. So I'm actually having an emotion about the emotion, and I'm totally distracted from the lesson that I would otherwise be having, because I'm superimposing like a soundtrack over the fucking movie. Like, I should be learning about depth. I should be learning about honesty and authenticity. And instead, I'm learning how to protect myself from fictitious bad guys, and it's just because that's the soundtrack that's over the top of what's actually happening. And I've put it there habitually.
Yeah, the opinion isn't necessary, and despite our society pushing the narrative that it is, like, that's the most important. I've heard this from people, like, the most important thing you can have is an opinion on everything. Like, oh yeah,
shit.
literally, yeah, that's
I'm
crazy.
lost.
Yeah, like you should have a go-to opinion on everything that you can think of. And I'm like, oh my God, number one, that sounds fucking exhausting. Two, it sounds like you're going to create a lot of conflict with just reality itself. And three, you're always going to be defending something. It's going to take up a lot of fucking energy to do that, maintain that, and even fucking remember what all of your opinions are.
Yes,
Like,
even that's
because
the difficult part.
exactly, like, because it means something about you, and then someone catches you, and you're like, your opinion's shifted, and that's a whole thing too. That like it's a weakness to change your opinion. Fuck that. No, it's the biggest strength you can have is a letting go and learning. It's what allows you. But as you stay fucking so caught up in that opinion, it's like you resist the opportunity to learn from things. Someone has a different point of view. You're not even willing to listen to it because you're so caught up in defending your fucking opinion. That is just a made up thing that allows you to maintain that idea of yourself. It's fucked, but it's fascinating to see how many people settle upon that in our society, especially. Like that is a very important thing. It's like you think there's maybe a couple more important things to focus on than you having an opinion of like what the best ice cream topping is in the world.
Yeah, I did the opposite last week, I think. I tried to not have an opinion. It was just to play. I was bored. No, wasn't bored, but I just had this idea, like, what if I didn't have any opinion today? And no matter what people asked me, I said, I don't know, or I don't care. And I thought, okay, maybe they think I lost my mind completely now. But it was so funny. And I just had a good time with myself. So I just, I don't know. Whatever. It felt really relaxing. So I thought, okay, I actually really, deep down, I really don't care. I don't care about anything, to be honest. If I have to, or if someone would hurt someone that I likes, then probably then I would experience something and have an opinion on that. But right now, in the here and now where I am, I don't care about anything. So why should I pretend that I do? And I just played it the whole day, and it was really nice. It was like holidays.
That's fantastic. I do that all the time. It drives my wife nuts. And it's just because Ray, or the character of Ray, isn't so attached to whatever Ray might like or has liked previously that I feel comfortable saying this is what I'm going to like forever. And so if I go out with friends or I'm hanging out or I go to somebody's house for dinner or anything, they're like, oh, what kind of drink do you like? Whatever you got. Right. Or we'll go to the restaurant. What kind of food do you want? You choose. And it's just because I'm perfectly willing to see that lesson. I'm perfectly willing to have that experience and let reality kind of dictate, like, check this out within reason. And I say that because there are certain experiences that I know Ray is probably going to deal with for a good long time because frankly, I like to. And specifically, I'm talking about Brussels sprouts. Brussels sprouts are where I draw the fucking line. No.
Oh, that's amazing.
I think that balance is important because even just now in this conversation, I'm thinking like, damn, maybe I'm just gonna when I go to restaurants, just be like, what's your favorite thing to the waiter or waitress? What's your favorite thing on the menu? And just see it's like a new experience because it's like and letting go of that assumption of what you like allows you to find out, and that can be applicable to so many different things. Like really taking a day, like Anna, you said that you just like chose not to have an opinion of anything. It's like it's very hard to cling to an idea of yourself when you don't have opinions about things. Like our opinions, our preferences, our judgments that we take so goddamn seriously are really the foundation of us. Like without those opinions so much, it's really hard to cling to a solid idea of yourself because what's it built on? Here and now?
Yeah, on nothing at the end of the day. It's built on nothing, on stories, on the stories of other people. It all comes back to the stories of other people because we probably wouldn't have even start to write a story if there were no people who could show us how to do it. So if I was alone in a cave and just sit there, would I have a story about myself? I don't think so.
Would you even have a name?
No, certainly not. For what?
Right. And that's it. Like we forget that, we were never named. We have no actual name. We were given a label and we use that label out of habit. But even that's fiction. Even the idea of who you are as a label, as a name doesn't exist. It doesn't exist ever. It never has. You came into the world without anything attached to you saying, this is Bob. It's not there because it doesn't actually exist. It's simply a convenience. It is something that we use because our current level of communication is based on this refusal to recognize that we are one another. And so we have secrets and insecurities. And in order to protect those secrets and insecurities, I have to have a way of lying, which means I have to have verbal language. I have to have words that can have different meanings. I have to have words that I can hide behind. I have to have sounds that somehow betray my intention. Because if I didn't, you would be able to hear what I am purely. And I'm afraid of that because I have an idea that I'm ashamed of.
And it would be so peaceful if you could just say and do everything that you want to do.
Yeah, and those stories, they're always relative. They're always relative to your environment, to other people. You get caught up in thinking like, you're insecure about something on your body, the way you look in a way. I think my teeth are too big or something. It's like relative to what? Relative to everyone else, how you perceive everyone else. Like if there was no one else, there would be no insecurity. Like if you were, even the idea of, because the reality, as you pointed to before, we are alone. I am alone. But if we, even from the egotistical perspective, if we were alone, surviving on an island, there's food, whatever, we'd lived a full life by ourselves on an island, there wouldn't be any insecurities. There wouldn't be very much. I don't know. It makes me wonder if even the self-dialogue wouldn't slow down if we're willing to, or I don't know if it would speed up if we were alone. I guess it depends on person and how they perceive themselves, but I think it would very quickly just be, I don't know, your experience that you're having. At least for me, it's hard for me to think of where my mind would go without a relative comparison to have, with myself versus another. I'm too heavy, too skinny, too tall, too short, too, not enough people like me, too many people like me, all that stuff. It's like, it's all relative to how we see other people. My experience is I'm not having enough fun with my life. It's like you're only judging it based on how you think other people are enjoying their life. Like every story we tell ourselves is relative to how we perceive other people. And we don't even know their full stories. We don't even have certainty with what their story is like, but we create their story and then compare our story to their story. So we're always living in that relativity. It's fascinating.
Yeah, I guess if you were alone, then it would depend on if you had a previous experience with other people, because if you had one, then you would most likely have an inner dialogue with a concept of them in your head. But if you didn't experience other people before, then most likely not, because then you wouldn't know the concept of division. So why would you talk to another in order to validate your opinion, for example? You wouldn't feel the need to. But that's what I think. I just thought, would we even want to exist? So would we want to live if there was no other? Because we only live in relation to other people. So it's all about, or other beings, doesn't need to be humans probably, but it's all about having another. That's the point of division, right? So otherwise the universe would have stayed a singularity. So it would have never changed. So if it did, then probably this is our engine somehow. So
this is a really good question. It's interesting. There's a movie that came out in the 90s. It's called Nell. It's starring Jodie Foster and Liam Neeson. And it's a fantastic movie. If you ever get the chance to check it out, I highly recommend that you do. But basically, it's the story of a feral child, a child that was left in the woods by herself after her grandmother died out in the woods in this cabin. And nobody ever knew. Nobody ever knew the child was out there. And so she spent her entire life alone in the wilderness, basically without any language whatsoever outside of what she had learned at like 5 years old of the English language. So she had sparse, like little fragments of words, like a tree was a tay, right? And wind was wind, right? And that's all she knew. That was all she knew. And yet she was perfectly happy. The story is actually really fucking sad. And it's because Liam Neeson's character is like determined to bring her to civilization so she can speak to other humans. And so by the end of the movie, she does learn how to interact and come into the world and gets a job. And you see her years later, and yet she's still looking at the woods, and you can see the sadness on her face at the innocence that was lost, at the experience that was no longer available to her because she was in the human world, whereas before she was just part of the natural world and felt free.
Yeah, that's it. We are never free when we are around others. I think this is why there are so many monks who choose this kind of life to to be just in solitude somehow. Mm. And I also like that. So I sometimes I think about doing that, or just to go to a monastery for a couple of days, or maybe even just forever. But I'm not sure if that's the point of life, because it feels like also the easy way. I don't want to say that all the monks live the easy way, but it's certainly easier to be enlightened or to be awakened if there are not too many people around.
You know, it's interesting. That was actually the point of recognition that brought me out of the woods, because I had a point when I was younger. I went into the forest for 8 months, and it was very much, for that. It was I need to get away. I need to do all of that, and then you start to recognize that because we're all one, because there is no division. Me running away from all the other reflections of myself, of all the other reflections of mentalities that I can be, means I'm not dealing with them, which means I'm actually not doing as much growth as I'd like to convince myself I am on top of my mountain with my incense and my singing bowls, right? And it's simply because I'm hiding from the rest of myself, because I think that they're a threat to the peace that I've managed to find. It's like, if they're a threat, then you're not at peace.
Yeah, maybe the question is where you can remove the most layers if this is what you want. So sometimes it can be alone in the woods as well, I guess, because for many people this is the biggest threat because they cannot be alone. So probably for them it's the bigger challenge to do that. So,
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. I just want to add one more thing, and then I'll pass it to Andrew. One of the things that I like about your content, and the reason that I'm encouraging everybody listening to this episode right now to go and check out your content, is your focus on enthusiasm and play. Because in enthusiasm and play, there is less of you. There is just less of you. So it doesn't have to be this process of trying to break down concepts and let go of shit. Just play, just relax and fucking play, and it will get easier to do. But it's so hard for us to justify play because it's not productive. It's not outrunning the carrot and the stick mentality. Dear God, I'm not escaping my pain if I'm just playing. It's like, of course you are. Play.
Between play, being enthusiastic, not having quite so many opinions all the time and thinking they mean something about you, it's like that allows you to be free within the chaos. Like, sure, maybe it's easier to do so when you're not getting pushed and pulled so much by society, being, up on the mountaintop and all that stuff. But being in it, there is the opportunity to still be free. You can recognize that you don't have to be pushed and pulled so much by society. And that's a lot easier when you let go of you, the story of you, the idea of you. It gets way easier to not take those push and pulls, to not take the manipulation that society is always trying to do to you, when you're not so afraid, when you're not so caught up in judging yourself relative to everything else, because then you're always trying to feel a little bit better through that. And society will give you, an infinite number of ways to feel just a little bit better, taking you further from the reality of getting better, further from, the reality of what you are as you're trying to build yourself, as you're trying to hold on to all the opinions, as you're trying to be productive, avoiding play, thinking, yeah, I can't do that. I got to be productive. I got to build this idea. What's going to happen if I take a moment to myself to breathe for a second? My entire idea of me as being someone who is productive and, helpful to society and doing all of these great things that I keep inside of my mind, it may fall apart temporarily, and the prison walls may come down as if I take a moment to take myself a little bit less seriously. And that's what we're afraid of. And beyond that, there's, I think, a depth of that we're truly afraid of, and that we're always trying to avoid. And there's lots of ways that we avoid being ourselves, but I think the ultimate avoidance is of, as we've kind of circled around, of being alone. Because eventually you get to a point where there's no more walls. You're seeing yourself in everyone. You're recognizing, like, oh, maybe I am alone. Maybe I've always been alone. And are you able to resist the urge to have an opinion on that? I don't know. That's something I'm still sort of wrestling with, is that opinion of that. But it's still that opinion that comes back to sort of bite you in the ass, even in the depths of that recognition.
Yes, that's true. And I just want to reassure everyone who is still dealing with the opinion of being all that is, rest assured, it doesn't matter what you think. It still is. It always has been. There's actually nothing you need to do. Nothing changes. That's the beautiful part about recognizing that you are the all of everything, is that you always have been. It doesn't mean that anything necessarily has to change. It just means that the mentality that you are operating from has shifted, which means the possibilities that you see are different. That's the only thing that's changed. That is all that changes with recognizing that you're whole and complete and one with everything, is that you're no longer running based on the sense that you're not, which means the decisions that you make change. That's it. And the impact that you have changes. That's all it is. It's just about being free in yourself. And this is something that I wanted to bring up because you had me thinking about this earlier, Anna, and I think it's a perfect way to transition towards the end of this episode, is that if you are not being yourself for fear of the response of the egotistical world around you, that's very much like shuttering the lantern to protect the light from the darkness. If you don't unshutter the lantern, you can't change the darkness. There's no point in protecting the light. It's the answer that you're looking for. Be yourself. The darkness will shift with you.
Yeah. Speaks from my heart. Yes.
Well said. Yeah. Everything shifts as you do, as you let go of that fear, thinking that, resisting or letting go or opening up the shutters means something about you, or the response from said darkness about the light, its opinion of the light, that it's only just seeing, so it's new and therefore it has an opinion on it, and it's not what it's used to, so it's going to have typically a negative response to it just because it's unknown, it's uncertain. And so as the darkness begins to experience the light, it's inevitably going to have typically that negative sort of response, because the darkness is just afraid of the uncertainty, afraid of the unknown. So anything new that gets placed in front of it, it's going to resist initially until it gets overtaken in a sense, or at least transmuted, or whatever words you want to use, because you are that darkness as well. And the more clearly you can recognize that, the more willing you are to let go of those shutters and shine that fucking light.
Well said. And that actually leads me to a question that I want to ask you, Anna. Before we part ways, I do want to say thank you so much for being here for this episode. I've been looking forward to the opportunity to chat with you for quite some time. I'm glad that we finally managed to make this happen.
Thank you. Thank you. I was looking forward to it a lot as well. I'm a huge fan.
That's awesome. Likewise. So in moments where we find ourselves, let's just say, feeling the darkness creeping in, and by the darkness, I mean our own judgments, our own fears of not being enough, our own fears of breaking out of our shell, we're sitting at the bar doing the same old, let's just say, any one of our listeners. What is a message that you would want to leave with them that might encourage them to get the fuck up and go out to the woods?
Yeah, I would say, where would you feel most comfortable? Like, what do you feel good about? Is it sitting there? Then sit there. I think it's also an option to stay in the bar, but what would you really like to do? I think it's that simple. It doesn't need to be complicated. So, would you feel excited about going outside? Then just drop all the shit. I mean, probably pay your bill and then go. But just listen to what you really want. And I don't mean don't listen to your comfort, because maybe it would be more comfortable to stay in this bar because you are already there. Listen to your excitement. Like, what's your drive? What do you feel? And yeah, most likely it won't be the bar. I don't know. Why would we want to sit there? But I don't know. Everyone has to decide for themselves.
Well, and as you said, do whatever feels the lightest.
Yeah, whatever feels the lightest.
Yeah. And as you let go of that idea that there is anything that you should be doing, it's a lot easier to follow that sort of lightness, because as much as society is going to tell you there's something you should always be doing. There isn't. And so through that recognition, there's nothing you ever have to do. There's nothing you ever should do. All of the options come back on the table.
You can just play. Yeah, you can just play. And even if you stay in the bar, you can play as well. I just thought about the ordering. So you can just ask the waiter, what would you choose? This is something that I used to do a lot, actually. So I have like a certain amount of food that I don't like or that I just don't eat. But I would say, okay, I don't like this, this, and that. But what would you eat if you were me? And then just do that, like play, do whatever you want.
That's fantastic advice. That's it. Whatever it is, just mix it up. Whatever you're not used to doing, maybe do that. Maybe the problem is simply that you've gotten so used to the guide rails that they're feeling a little cramped for you. So step out of those guide rails, do something different, and you'll start to realize they were never really there. And keep it light, and you'll be free. This is a great conversation. I've really enjoyed this. Of course, everyone, you can find Anastasia on TikTok or Instagram. We're going to put the links in the description below this video. Likewise, check out Insanity on YouTube. The content there is already great, and it's just going to continue to grow over time. So anything that we can do to continue to encourage and motivate you, we are more than happy to do so. It's great to have you as a part of this ongoing and growing conversation.
Thank you so much. So glad about that. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Anna. I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with us. This is a fucking awesome conversation, as I knew that it would be. But yeah, I appreciate you very much. Everything you're doing, everything you're putting out there, your authenticity and your enthusiasm to just be yourself and share that light. I appreciate it very much. And I look forward to our next chat.
Yeah, me too. A lot. Thank you so much.
Well, everyone, thank you so much for listening. As always, we will see you at the next episode. Do remember that we have the retreat coming up in April. So there will be a number of episodes that we've already pre-recorded that are going to be released in that week. I can't tell you what they are, but if you join us on Patreon, you can find out there. Thanks so much. We'll see you next time.
Bye, everyone.